Roughly around 2500 years ago, there lived a king called Parikshit. Parikshit was a great warrior, and one thing that he loved doing was hunting. He took all his soldiers every once in a while deep into the forest and go for hunting. While he did that, one day he had enough of it. He got exhausted and he thought he would just rest for a while and drink some water because he was so tired and thirsty. At a distance, he spotted an ashrama, a house where a sage would live. He thought he would stop by that ashrama asking that sage for some water. He just knocked on the door, there was no response, and so he went around the house and he reached the backyard of that house where he saw a sage who was sitting there quietly doing his meditation. He was that time. Parikshit, the king, went and then asked, "Oh dear sir, me and my soldiers were very tired, very much tired, and we need some water. Do you mind giving us some?" The sage was totally absorbed. He didn't even hear. He wasn't even aware in the first place. But the king insisted that, "Oh dear sir, are you listening to me or not? We are thirsty here. Why are you not responding?" But the sage, of course, he was totally absorbed. Finally, the king was totally mad. He thought that the sage was intentionally ignoring the king, which he wasn't, because the sage was not even aware of the king being present there. And so the king, in a fit of rage and anger, looked around, thinking what to do to this adamant sage, when he saw a dead snake lying on the ground. He picked up that snake and he just dropped around that sage's neck, thinking that this is the right fitting insult that you deserve. Because you're not answering me, I would just give you this insult. Thinking that he is insulting. But the sage wasn't even aware even of that, a snake being dropped around his neck. But when he was doing that, the sage's son was watching this at a distance, and he thought that, what, someone is trying to do something to my dad? Let me go near and see what it is. By the time the king and his men left the place, when the boy saw that his father was humiliated, his father was insulted by the king, then the boy gave out a curse. He said that, "You have put a dead snake around my father's neck. Whoever that is, whoever who did this act, they will be dead in 1 week by a snake bite. And the snake will bite that person in 1 week from now, and he will be dead." And even that sage's son also had as much powers because of his meditation, because of his spiritual practices and discipline and mental strength. He had acquired so much power that he gave out that curse. When such power, if you have through continuous discipline and practice of your mind, then whatever that you utter will become true. People around heard about it and they ran to the king and they notified him that, "Oh dear king, looks like you have done this to that sage, and you have earned that sage's son's curse. Now you will be dead in 1 week, being bitten by a snake. So why don't you go and ask for apology?" In the meantime, this sage opened his eyes and then he realized he didn't even realize still what had happened. He asked. Then his son told him that, Dad, this is what had happened when you were deep in the meditation. The king looks like a king. When I looked at him from a faraway distance, he had done this to you, insulting you, and I couldn't bear it, so I uttered a curse on him. Then father was like, why did you do this? He was after all the king, and he is needed for all of us. The king is needed to protect the country, and if he is not there, who is going to protect the people? And why did you show your anger, my dear son? That is not right. You should not have uttered. And this is not even any insult. The snake is anyway a dead snake. How can this be an insult? And an insult is an insult only when I accept it as an insult, right? Why are you getting so much worked up? Why did you do this? Then he also asked for an apology from his dad. Then the king now realized his mistake. After he reached the palace, he knew that, okay, whatever that I have done in a fit of rage or anger, it's just a madness. Then he doesn't want to go and ask for apology because he knew for sure that it is not right. Unforgivable. He knew that for sure. So the king went on and he just gave away all his belongings. And he doesn't want to be a king anymore. So King Parikshith gave away the kingdom to his sons. And he handed over the responsibilities to people like ministers, what they should do, army generals, what they should do to protect the country. And I wanted to retire back into the forest. I don't want to live the life of a king anymore. Saying so, he went into the forest. At the time when he was living in the forest for a day, not even a day has passed, when a great Sukha Maharaj is not he's a sage himself. He came, he walked along. Sukha Maharaj was a super brilliant sage of all. He knew everything about how this entire universe was working, what is life, how you have to live a life happily, peacefully. He was the perfect example of the realized man. And so he was just happily walking and he saw King Parikshith sitting there worried. He asked, why are you so bothered? Then King Parikshith narrated the whole incident, what he had done and how much he was scared now that the snake is going to bite him. The snake's name was Takshaka. Takshak is the name of that snake that is going to bite King Parikshith. Now Sukadeva was listening to everything. Now King Parikshith asked Sukadeva, oh Sukadeva, you are so much intelligent than me. You have so much knowledge about this world, this birth, this death, everything that goes on in between. Why don't you please give me some advice? What should I do the next 7 days? He asked. Should I just go and then do all things that I like swimming, eating a lot of ice creams, or doing the most favorite of vacations? What should I do in the next 7 days? Because all I have got is just 7 days to live. What I must be doing right now? Please answer me. Then Sukadeva, who is the most intelligent, most knowledgeable, and the most smartest who was living at that time in the world, answered King Parikshith. He said that, dear King Parikshith, let me narrate to you the story of the avatars of Vishnu. In the next 7 days, one must listen only to that. If you have 7 days to live, all you should do is listen to the stories of Lord Vishnu. That will be the most happiest thing that you should do during the 7 days. 7 days listening, will he escape from the snake bite? No, he will still be subjected to that curse. But he is now freed from the fear of death. After 7 days, King Parikshith prayed in front of Sukadeva and said, 7 days back I was totally scared of death, totally scared of snakes being bitten. But now I don't have any fear because I heard from you the absolute knowledge. Now I am enlightened. I have the absolute braveness in my mind to face not just the snakes but anything in my life. I am not scared to face death. Saying so, he was just sitting there. At the time, snake Takshaka took the form of a Brahman, took the form of a priest so that he can approach the king. He came near and the king Parikshit thought that he is a priest. He welcomed him, and then when he came close, he became a snake and he bit, and King Parikshit died. That is, he is not even worried. Even if the snake had came in the real form, he would have just welcomed and asked him to bite. Story. The 7 days story is called Bhagavata Purana.